Hello, today I'll be giving a demo of the framework built for automation testing of REST APIs. The framework uses Cucumber framework for behavior-driven development, TestNG for executing the test cases, REST Assured for invoking and asserting the REST APIs, and REST API responses. Following APIs have been identified for executing the test cases. So there is login API, logout API, create account, get account, delete account, and update account. So login API is basically um, post API, which passes the user ID password and authenticates whether the user is allowed to log in. Logout basically logs out the user. Um, Post API on an account is used for creating an account. Get is used to get the account from the database. Delete is to delete the account, and put is used to update the account. So all these operations impacts or updates table uh, which is created in a MySQL database. So this is the database MySQL which is running in my local, and it has a table user account. So the user account table has all these records inserted already, and as part of this test, we'll be using this account to log in. At the same time, create, update, delete, and get operations will be performed from this table. So moving on to the Cucumber feature file. So mm, before you start uh, executing any test case, you need to define the test cases. So for Cucumber framework, you'll have to define your test cases in a feature file. So in a feature file consists of uh, tags, which can be used for grouping different test cases. All the features, the main feature that we are going to test is defined using the feature label. So here we are testing the login API and logout API. So login API should return HTTP response 200 for a valid user, and it should return 401 for an invalid user. Similarly, logout API should return 200 for any user ID. So a feature file consists of scenarios and given when then statements. So here the scenario is a positive scenario. Here we are verifying whether the user can invoke the login API for valid users. So here the given statement, the endpoint of the REST API is defined. So I have a basic Jersey application uh, deployed in a Tomcat server running in my local. So since it is running in the local, I have used the local host, and 88 is the port number. So this one basically invokes, this test case should invoke the login API passing the user ID password, and in response it should check for 200 response code. So in a Cucumber feature file, the data that you populate inside the examples label will be used for data-driven testing. So each test case will be executed by passing these three values. The second scenario is to verify whether the login returns error when you try to log in using an invalid user ID password. So in the given statement, you set I'm setting the endpoint, REST API endpoint. In the when statement, I'm passing the user ID password, and I'm checking for the response code 401. Similarly, in the logout API, I'm checking whether the response is 401. Intentionally to show a negative test case, though the API returns 200, I'm checking for 401 so that this test case fails. So once the test case Cucumber feature file has been created, which is pretty much kind of using all the English statements, you define the steps for the uh, feature file. So the steps are defined in class, separate class, and in that, using annotations, we define the given, when, and then statement. So in the auth API feature file, we had the given statement in which we were setting the API endpoint, username and password, and then checking the response code. So in the step definition, you can see that there is a given statement which has the text matching the text which is defined in the feature file, passing the URL. Then I have the when statement where I'm passing the user ID password, which is set into a local variable, and the then statement I am checking for the HTTP response code. So here I'm using the rest assured library to invoke the API. So rest assured sets the headers, sets the body, make the postcode, and asserts that the HTTP response code that I had set in the feature file matches with what is written from the API. This is the statement that will be used for the second scenario defined, that is the negative scenario where the expectation is to get a 401. So here you can see that then I should get an error is mapped to the then statement here. I should get an error, the then statement. So here the rest assured framework invokes the API using the same URL and checks setting before that it sets the header, body, and then it checks the HTTP status response is 401. Same with the logout API. Here logout API sets the URL, and in logout API we are using few steps that is already defined for login API. Here in logout API, this step is reused, and also like yeah, only one step is reused. So this is one feature file with which tests end-to-end scenario of login and logout API. So let's proceed to another API that is account API. So account API basically allows to create, update, delete, or get a user. So as you can see, like you can define this feature file using plain English statements. So here the first scenario is like a create account. So I'm using the tag create account. So here you need to verify whether the user can create an account using email ID, password, first name, last name, and gender. So here the endpoint that will get invoked is /account, as I showed in the Postman here. So here also data-driven testing is used. So in the example section, I have defined 3 usernames, and I will be passing those 3 usernames as input. It has the username, password, first name, last name, and gender. So all the values are passed. And I'm checking whether I'm getting 200 HTTP response after invoking the API. Similarly, in get account, I'm checking whether API is able to return 200 response for the user ID user IDs which are defined here. So I had created this user IDs in the initial step. So I'm using the same user ID. That way I can make sure that the users that were created in the initial step can be retrieved in the second step. So in the third scenario, that is the update account, I am trying to update the username, password, update the first name, last name. So as the above scenario, I'm setting the API endpoint, I'm setting the username, first name, last name, and gender, and I'll be invoking an update operation on this account. So I'll be changing the first name to a new first name, and all other values will remain the same. And in the fourth scenario, I'll be deleting an account. So in the given statement, I'll be setting the endpoint. I'll be deleting a user, passing the username, and username is taken from the example section of the feature file. So we'll go to the step definition for the account setup. So in the account setup, you can see like for create user, I was passing in the feature file I had defined like I'll be passing username, password, first name, last name, and gender. So I'm setting those values into a JSON object, and in the then statement, I'm using a REST assertor to set the header, uh, pass the body, invoke the API, and check whether the response code is the part that was defined in the feature file, which got passed from the feature file. So that is the post operation. So next coming to the get scenario. So in the get scenario, what we were checking is like whether I can get the information by passing the username, first name, and username uh, by invoking the get API. So here I'm setting the endpoint. Um, I'm checking whether I can get a user using the username, and the response is 200. So here in the when statement, um, I'm setting the username which I need to fetch, and in the get operation, like in the then operation, I'm using the HTTP response code to check whether the response code is 200, and I'm using REST assured to set the header and invoke the get API using the URI and the email ID. And then I'm certain that whether the response code is 200. Here, instead of 200, we can pass other parameters like the user's credentials or like the user's first name, last name, and assert here that the first name matches the first name that we are looking for. That way we can have better data-driven testing. Similarly, for the third scenario, the update, I'm updating user first name, last name or gender using user's username. So in the when statement, I'm setting all the values, and in the then statement, I'm invoking the REST endpoint, passing the body, and placing a put request, and I'm asserting whether the response is 200. Similarly, for the fourth scenario, where we are doing a delete operation, in the delete operation, we are setting the endpoint in the given statement. In the when statement, we are passing the username, and we are checking whether the delete was successful or not. And the ID passed is ap underscore auto3@test.com. So here, as defined in the feature file, a delete user um, a function is created in which the username is set, and in the then statement, rest assured is used to invoke the API. That delete request API, uh, delete API request is invoked, and we are asserting the response that it is true. So these are the basic files required for defining the test cases. So for running this API test cases, we need to create a um, test runner, which is a um, TestNG Cucumber bridge runner, and in that we will define the location of all the feature files, all the step definitions, and the any external plugins can be configured here. I'm using external reports for um, generating the report. So uh, the report, the plugin name, that is extend Cucumber adapter, and the report where the file will be generated needs to be configured. For TestNG to work, there are two configurations. There is one configuration file, that is a testng.xml. You need to install TestNG plugin in Eclipse to use TestNG. And here you just give the package where you have the runner configured. So I have the runner configured here. To get the extend reports working, you'll have to define two files. One is the extend.properties, where you define some of the basic properties. And here also you can define where you want to write the um, extend report.html. And there is extend config.xml, where you can define all the look and feel of your extend reports. And you can define the report name and all the other information corresponding to extend reports. So that pretty much explains the files that I'm using in the framework. So now to run the test case, we'll have to right click on the TestNG XML file, run as TestNG script. So here you can see in the console it has started executing the feature files that we had defined. So now the uh, test cases are getting executed. So you can see that all the test cases have been executed. I had intentionally failed two test cases to show how the test results look. So there were 19 runs and 2 failures. So you can go to the results of running suite to see all the test cases that were executed. So here you can see all the test cases that we had defined are listed here. Verify that user account can be created. So user account can be created. We have defined 3 data for that. So all the 3 data has been a test case has been executed twice for all the data defined in the example section. So here you can see, if you refresh the database, you can see that all the new records that we set up in the test feature, Cucumber feature file have been inserted in the database. Coming back to the result, you can see I had failed 2 scenarios, that is a delete. So here the expectation was for 200, but we got a 401. Sorry, expectation we had set it as 401, but we got a 200, so the test case failed. So at the end of the test execution, the extend reports are created here. So it's an HTML file. TestNG inherently has its own reporting tool. So here you can open this report and see the TestNG report. Um, so I have opened this extend report.html in a separate window to see the summary of the test cases. So here you can see I'm running, executing, opening this HTML from my local, that's this location. Yeah. So this test case gives a summary of what all that executed. So here you can see I had a account API, uh, and login API. So all the scenarios inside the login API or account API are listed here. So here you can see like all the scenarios that I have defined have been put here. Here in external reports, you can go to the dashboard view. So in the dashboard view, you can see all the um, test cases passed. So all the tags that I had used in the feature file are listed here, and how many were successful and how many were failure also you can see. It's a detailed report which gives like how when the test case started and when it ended and time taken for the test execution. So how many steps were there? 58 steps, scenarios 19, and features 3. I can go to the bugs and I can see which all test cases failed. So these are the two test cases for delete account which failed because the response code from API did not match with the response code which we had configured in the feature file. This section allows you to list all the APIs, like all the test cases using the tags that were defined in the Cucumber. So here you can see like I had defined create account, get account, update account. So all the APIs that were executed are listed here and also the status of it. So you can click on any of the test cases and see here for um, the get account, we had a list of users defined in the example section. So this API was executed for each of those users and everything for. Same with the update account. So in update account also we executed each of the test cases for each of the users and it passed. And same with the delete account also, which failed. And this gives a summary of everything, and here you can see like certain test cases passed, certain test cases failed. Like in the logout API I had failed the test cases, uh, though it was returning 200, I had passed to 400 to make sure that to include a failed scenario also. So that's the summary of the framework. So as you can see, like to get a test case, to write an automation test case for API, I just have to create a feature file, write all the test cases and test scenarios, pass the data that needs to be tested, write the step definition file for that data for the feature file, execute the test cases, and you can generate a you can see like you can execute all the test cases and get a report using Excel report. Thank you.